What's up, guys? It's Mr. Wicklehouse. This will be the last video in this unit, and this is just talking about some special angles that we need to know about. Okay? Alright. So, to start off with, and I feel like I've talked to you guys about this before, but maybe I haven't. Talked to somebody about it before. If I have two lines, segments, or rays, and they are perpendicular, then they intersect to form 90-degree angles. Okay? The symbol for perpendicular is this upside down T thing. Okay? It's like a T turned over on its head. So the first thing we need to be thinking about is perpendicular. Okay? Alright. So this says name all the angles that you know are right angles in the figure. Well, a lot of times in these pictures, they'll put a little box here, little box looking thing to designate that this is a 90-degree angle. So I know that angle ADC is a right angle. ADC is a right angle. I can look at the picture and see that AB is a straight line. So since that's a straight line, it's a straight angle. Straight angle ADB, angle ADB is a straight angle, which means that it's 180. Well, if ADB is a straight angle and ADC is a right angle means 90 degrees, then I know that this angle and this angle added together had to be 180. Well, if I subtract 90 from 180, then I know that angle CDB is also a right angle, or a 90-degree angle. Okay? Now you might be looking at this picture and you're saying to yourself, Mr. Wicklehouse, I think DCF is a right angle. Okay, this is where they'll get you sometimes. They'll draw the picture so that it looks like this is a 90-degree angle. If it is not marked in the picture that it is 90 degrees, then we don't know that it's 90 degrees. It might be really close. It might be so close that you take your protractor and you go and measure it, and it looks like it's 90 degrees. These pictures are never drawn to scale. So unless it's marked as 90 degrees, maybe this is 89.9999999, so on and so forth. If it's not marked that it's 90 degrees, don't tell me that it's 90 degrees. The only time you know that it's 90 degrees is if I tell you in words that it's 90, or if we have a mark on our picture or on our sketch that is 90 degrees. Okay? So I don't know that DCF is 90. Let's look at this. Make a new sketch of AB and CD at point E. And we want AB perpendicular to CD. Well, again, I'm going to use my trusty protractor just like we did in the last video. Draw a line, segment, find the center point of that there, or find a point on it. Call this A, B. I'm going to make that point right there E. Okay. And I want to make this 90 degrees from that point. So make sure everything's lined up straight. Make your mark at 90 degrees. And we're going to draw this. But that doesn't make sense because this says CD at point E. Oh, well, this needs to go through E to the other side somewhere so that we have D down here. So here's C, here's D, and it intersects at point E. Now, because I measured this to be 90 degrees, I know that this line is perpendicular. So we'll make a little mark here, and it'll make all of them perpendicular. Okay. This says make another sketch, BC and AB, that are perpendicular at point B. Think about that on your own. Get your protractor, see if you can figure out how to do it and how it would be different from this one. Okay. Here's something else. New type of angle here that we haven't talked about before called adjacent angles. Okay. So here it says angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent angles. Angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent. Here's angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent. Here it says angle 1 and angle 2 are not adjacent. So what's the difference between this one and this one? What's the difference between the two of them? That's right, these two are together. Adjacent means they're right next to one another. Okay, these two, if I put them together, they'd be adjacent, but right now they're not like right next to each other. They're not sharing a side. Uh-oh, the lights went out. Hold on. There we go. They're not sharing a side. That's very important for adjacent angles. They have to share a side. And they have to share a vertex. Notice here, these are sharing vertices. These are not. They're separate. They're not sharing sides or vertices. So adjacent angles are angles that share a side and a vertex. Okay? Okay. Here, it says draw angle 2 so that it is adjacent to angle 1. This is really easy. Here's angle 1. I'm going to come over here, start the vertex, and I'm just going to draw a line. There we go. Here's angle 2, adjacent. Is it possible to draw two angles that share a common vertex, but not a common side? Well, no, it's not possible, is it? Over here it says in the definition, it says they have to share a side. What kind of question is that, Mr. Wickelhaus? You're insane. Adjacent angles have to share a vertex and a side. If they don't, then they're not adjacent. Is it possible to draw two angles that share a common side but not a common vertex? Think about that one, and we'll talk about it in class tomorrow. All right, here's another definition for you. These angles are called linear pairs. A linear pair of angles are two adjacent angles whose non-common sides form a line. Okay? So looking back at this picture right here, angle 1 and angle 2 are adjacent angles. This is a straight line, so these are a linear pair. Angle 1 and angle 2 form a linear pair because they're non-common side, this side here and this side here, they make that straight line. Linear pair, angle 1 and angle 2. What is another word we know to describe these angles? Talked about it in the last video, I think. That's right, supplementary. So if I have two angles that are a linear pair, then I also know that they're supplementary. These last two things I want you guys to think about on your own. Draw a linear pair of angles. Draw a pair of angles that are supplementary but not a linear pair. Think about those things. Think about the difference between those two things and see if you can come up with a solution there. All right. Last few things coming up here. Okay. Vertical angles is the last vocabulary word. They're two non-adjacent angles that are formed by two intersecting lines. So if I draw two intersecting lines, it doesn't matter how I draw them, but they have to be lines. Angle 1 and angle 2 are vertical angles. Angle 1, angle 2 are vertical angles. They're right across from each other. Here's a straight line, here's a straight line. They make vertical angles. Here's a straight line, here's a straight line. They make vertical angles. Look at this one. Angle 1 and angle 2 are not vertical angles. Here's a straight line, but this line goes whoop, and then shoots off some other direction. It's not straight across. See, this would have to go straight across for it to be vertical. Okay. Here's two straight lines, but I'm not talking about this angle and this angle. I'm talking about this angle and this angle. Angle 1 and angle 2 here are a linear pair. Vertical angles are non-adjacent angles. Angle 1 and angle 2 here are adjacent angles. Okay? Here's another little bit of information for you. Vertical angles are always congruent. They're the same measure every time. You can kind of tell just by looking at it here. Angle 1, angle 2, they're the same. They're congruent to one another. So remember that vertical angles are always congruent. So draw angle 2 so that it forms a vertical angle with angle 1. Okay, this is easy. Take my point here in the middle, and I'm just going to draw a straight line, straight across. When I do that, and I call this angle 2, I automatically know that angle 1 and angle 2 are congruent to one another. I can also say that I've got a 3 and a 4 here. There's two other angles. 3 and 4 are congruent to one another. Kind of crazy. Alright, this says in the diagram above, name all the linear pairs. Linear pairs? I thought we were talking about vertical angles. I'm trying to be tricky. Okay, linear pairs. Remember, linear pairs are adjacent angles whose non-common side forms a straight line. Does 1 and 2, are those a linear pair? No. 1 and 4 are a linear pair. What about 2 and 4? Yeah. 2 and 3, is that a linear pair? Yeah. 3 and 1 are a linear pair. Okay? That's all the linear pairs. You're just looking like the ones next to one another. Those are all linear pairs. Now I want you to take some time and name all the vertical angles. You do that, we'll talk about that tomorrow. That's all I got for you today. I'll talk to you later.